All right, 56 miles, and the carbon wheels with bladed spokes continue to impress. I've taken another 12 to 15 minutes off my time for the exact same course. And an unexpected benefit of these wheels is the louder rear hub. My old wheels were actually pretty quiet, which I did enjoy because you can hear things better. But to let people know I'm coming up behind them when it gets narrow and there's hikers and stuff is actually pretty nice. And I'm just rinsed it off. I'll come back with some more stuff about one of the ways that I came back going faster and everything. But I was taking a nap, which was great, and then Zen Tri Nurse decided to wake me up by pouring a bowl of dog food into a metal dish right next to my head to wake me up to let me know the dog needs to go for a walk. So swipe right, and I will give you some tips on how to go even faster. It's pretty cool stuff. Okay, this information comes from me riding the same courses for 20 years with a power meter. And this stuff actually really works. Studies show that the fastest way for a long distance bike ride from point A to point B is to go just a little bit harder on the uphills than everything else. And what happens is the uphills already pose resistance just by their natural state. You know, if you just look down pedaling with a power meter, you'll see that you're putting down more power going uphill without even trying to, right? Because if you're going flat or especially downhill, the ground is running away from you, so it's harder to catch up and apply pressure to catch it. And swipe right. So to go harder uphill than the rest of the time doesn't actually take that much work. You actually need to kind of hold back a little bit, and it'll happen naturally. And then the next thing to think about is go online and look at graphs of how Pinewood Derby cars are faster when they do the track pointed downhill at first, and then instead of like a level constant angle downhill, or versus kind of a slight downhill and then a big drop off. You want the drop off actually to happen faster or earlier on, and then the car achieves a higher speed sooner and then spends more time at that higher speed and ends up being faster. So you can do the same thing by accelerating downhill as soon as you can after you crest over the top of a hill. So the whole package is, if you kind of hold back a little bit when climbing uphill, realizing and looking down at your power meter that putting down 20 watts more when you're climbing uphill is actually just kind of happens naturally, and stay seated and climb just like Pogacar. He's seated and climbing most of the time. And then when it starts to go downhill or just about to go downhill, stand up and pedal, which puts down a huge amount of torque, and then it accelerates you. And then when you really get going downhill, when you hit terminal velocity going on the downhill, and you've put down all this power, you have much more quickly gotten to a high speed. And then now you're going to spend more time at that high speed than you would have than if you climbed the hill hard and kind of rested at the top and slowly pedaled on your way back down. Swipe right. And then the best time to rest and recover after putting down a hard, big effort is if you happen to be going really fast and you can coast and you are going downhill so that you don't have anything working against you to slow you down. And guess when that happens? When you've hit terminal velocity at the beginning of a downhill, now you have the rest of the downhill to coast and let your legs recover. And if you do the standing and pedaling hard to start the descent, then, and that's like the only time that you do it, then you rarely use those muscles and they recover really fast from doing that. And then you can just do it over and over again. And it ends up over the period of a long ride being way faster than standing and climbing. Pause and swipe right. standing and climbing and putting out all this power, even seated and putting out a ton of power climbing up a hill. And you could get tired before you get to the top or as you get to the top. And then you're going so much slower, and then you need recovery. And then you're recovering while doing like 5 miles per hour. And instead, if you put down the power, if you control yourself so you don't need recovery when you get to the top, and then you put down the power using muscles in a different way, which would be standing and putting some power down, and then when you turn and go downhill, you've got this free time to rest and recover where you're doing 30, 35, 40, 45 miles an hour. And pedaling wouldn't even help you at that point anyway, you know? And that's the perfect time to recover, right? It's brilliant, and it works. I've tested it over and over again. It really, really works. It makes you much faster. So anyway, I did that for this ride, and it's wonderful. It works so well, and it doesn't beat you up as much. And yeah, just a really great ride. Fueling went well, and we're gonna go back to the house, and I'm going to put the bike up. It'll be dried off with this wind and everything, and think about swimming tomorrow morning. And I took a couple clips of some fun stuff while I was out there, a train and some Oreo cows, so let's enjoy. So anyway, I did that for this ride, and it's wonderful. It works so well, and it doesn't beat you up as much. And yeah, just a really great ride. Fueling went well, and we're gonna go back to the house. I took a couple clips of some fun stuff while I was out there, a train and some Oreo cows, so let's enjoy. Hey, look, it's an Oreo cow. Yay, it's my favorite. They make the milk that's good for Oreos. It's advertising right there.